G'day, guys. Jay here, Journeyman Whitefeather with Steve Irwin impersonation. Even this bloke here, friend of mine, Bryan Wiseman, actually did an Australian accent in a TV show in America. I just rock up to America and I talk. They go, "You're Steve Irwin's mate. Do you wrestle crocodiles? And do kangaroos jump in your backyard?"
And you know what? If you had have stayed there long enough, you probably would have been on all the talk shows and everything. They would embrace you. So I strongly encourage you
I've
to
tried to
go
come
back.
fly over. Oh, look, I'm going to go back. Look, Canada's always good. Calgary Stampede, mate's my place, mate. I'll tell you right now. We're meeting Bret Hart, my hero, mate. That was a bomb.
Wow.
That was a bomb. That was great. I wanted to ask you, Brian, about we were talking about child acting and the mindset, and when you sort of just go, I've done this big thing and now I'm out.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with a friend of mine in LA, and there was three things that came up that is a big, massive problem, and the way that people unalive themselves and get into the point where you say they're on the dole or they're whatever they're doing, and the three
Yeah.
things were drugs, alcohol, and number one with the ego. Now I'll just hold you on this one before you make
Sure. Sure.
the answer, because I would love to hear your situation. I'd love to hear your
Sure.
story on that. But you have a look at the story, the song "Fallen Angel" by Poison. And if you read between the lines of what they said, someone going to LA to make $1 million, and then suddenly, female, and then suddenly being taken up by agents, and suddenly she ends up in a strip bar, thinking that this is all glitz and glam, and this is the best thing since sliced bread. But coming from you, I am right when I said that is the number one unalive. I won't use that other words because we might get
Ego.
but the ego is the big thing, and there's people there that absolutely the succubuses in the Charmed reference. The succubuses come and get these people, and I make a reference to the WWE.
Yeah.
Look at the people in WWE. If you made Vince McMahon money, he was your best mate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you think, my friend? Because you've been there.
Yeah, I have been there, and I've been there in a very real way, in that you get to a certain height of fame, and you become used to it, and then suddenly there's nothing. And I had a battle with drugs, with cocaine, and it was very hard. But to me, it was like a mixture of things. It was a mixture of, like, you had this remarkable high, and being famous and being on television and everything. It's one of the biggest highs you can ever have. And then when you lose that, then you search for another high. And a lot of people find drugs, whatever vice it may be. There's lots out there. I found cocaine. And it would give me like a mini mental holiday for a while. It would make me feel good, but then you come down. And the sad part about all of that is that so many friends of mine who are no longer with us because they went down that road. Okay. And they found themselves like, you wanted for nothing. They had plenty of money, plenty of fame, and yet it was still never enough. And then they found drugs, and a lot of them didn't recover. And in fact, a lot of them have overdosed, and they're no longer here. And it's awful. And I mean, I thank my lucky stars that I was able to get over that. I've been clean now for over a decade. And that was very, very hard for me to realize that I wasn't the person I used to be. I didn't think I was. I was still the same person.
Yep.
But I was still, trying to get that high. And then I went off cocaine, and then I found another addiction in the way of shopping. And I would literally go and shop anywhere and everywhere. Just 10 minutes down the road from here, we have a 24/7 Kmart. And I'd go to Kmart 3, 4 in the morning and shop. And then I would go over to America and go and do shopping over there. I'd go to England and go shopping at Harrods, which is, my favourite stomping ground. I mean, it sounds glamorous, but it wasn't, because it was costing me a lot of money, and I ended up in a lot of debt to do it. And if you Google it, I mean, it is there. I've not seen it for a long time, but there was a show called Taboo with National Geographic, and they did a series on addictions.
I'd like to take this time to shout out our supporters at Liberty Bullion, the best gold, silver, and platinum traders in Melbourne, even Australia. If you want to give them a call, their knowledge, their customer service is second to none. Back to the show.
So they did this story. They did this series on addictions with people who were addicted. There was a woman who was addicted to sex. There was a person addicted to drugs, and then they got me addicted to shopping. So they filmed me going all around the world shopping, and it was like a high. But then after you did your shop and you got all your items, you got your things, and you're really excited, then you came down and you hit the ground with a big thud. And you were always searching for that next thing. Fortunately, I managed to put a handle on that and recovered from that. But yeah, very, very hard. Very, very hard.
What do you think about? So I look at that and what I went through and had that pseudo stroke that I had back in 2019. But the addiction to having that high is something that comes to me as well. I mean, you're looking at people being a people pleaser, and then you really look into your mindset. You know what I mean? And then you don't really realize how much of an impact where your mindset is at. It does it, Bryan? Where your mindset is, and these physical things that might seem, might seem nothing to somebody, but it's getting that hit and getting that happiness because you haven't got that connection to yourself. That's where we've both found that spirituality in ourselves. So go. Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think so personally, from where I've been, and certainly where a lot of other people have been, and they say the same thing, is you want to get that feeling again, and you search for it, but you never get that same feeling again. I mean, the first time you try it, it's great, it's wonderful. You want to get it again, but it's never the same. And I think that with something like this, you just find yourself on a path of destruction, and the key, I think at the helm of my addictions were I started feeling that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy anymore.
Yep.
Nobody liked me. Nobody wanted me. I was washed up, and therefore it's like, oh, well, what else could I find to give me this high? And so many actors and so many celebrities, look for that thing, and they find that they're not happy within themselves. And then I sat down with he was a monk. A Buddhist monk, and he taught me that the important thing is that you're happy with yourself. No amount of fame, no amount of money is going to make you happy. It has to come from within.
Within, yeah.
And it's a very, very hard thing to learn. In theory, I thought I understood it, but it wasn't until fairly recently, over the recent past year, that I've discovered that it's right, and the penny's dropped. Right?
It does take a while, doesn't it? I mean, I thought I'm doing massage, mind therapy, health, and all this kind of stuff, but was I really covering up for what I didn't understand and what I wasn't taught when I was young? You look at shadow work, inner child work, all that stuff, which is great, but did you really have the guidance to actually get right into it? And this is where we have the conflict of, do people really understand? They haven't really gone through it, do they? Or are they just guides? That's where my coaches, Greg Riley, JT Fox, they've been there. They're walking through it. They make you accountable. But then you meet people like yourself, and like we've connected, and you got Johnny Justice Matters. You know what I mean? You got all these wonderful people on these and we talk about vibration and frequency. I mean, there's so much in there. But your opinion on feeding your mind, that's in my book, the 15 lessons I learned when I woke the fuck up. There you go. That's one of the lessons.
Yeah.
Feeding your mind. I make the example of Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
Okay, when he was you know, in that you know, downward spiral. And
Yeah.
funny enough, I was watching, going, I'm going to be Nikki Six, I'm going to be Nikki Six, but my head was never not there. I shouldn't have been saying that because it
Absolutely.
fueled me to a point where something where you have those voices in your head, and that was the way it went. But that was a
Yeah.
turning
Yeah.
point in my life. What about yourself, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a perfect footnote to something you said earlier, and that is, what was it? You mentioned something about, that's right, finding somebody that's actually been in the same position.
Mm.
And I think that's key. I think that's very important. If you can find somebody who has actually experienced the same thing as you. I'll give you a perfect example. People can say to me, "Oh, your mother's dead. She died. I know how you feel, and I understand." No, they don't know unless they have been through that. And you had a stroke. I don't know what it's like to have a stroke. I can't fully understand that. However, my mother had a massive stroke when she was 60, and I know what it's like, to have a loved one who's had a stroke, because she never fully recovered. So, I think finding that person or finding people in your life who have been through the similar things that you have, that you can identify with. And I think, getting back to, when we've mentioned, Johnny at Justice Matters, Hood Law, and Cody at Rid's Opinion, we all are coming from a similar place, and that's
Absolutely.
what's drawn us together. And I think that's most important, that we find other people, and we find each other, obviously, you know. So yeah, but by identifying with somebody that understands what you've been through.
Because he went
Does
through
that
that,
make
like,
sense?
yeah, sorry, keep going, mate. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, it comes
Yeah.
down to a fact where I say, yeah, I've got the Robin Hood effect, as I said, when I do my opinions. It's five things. It's choice, it's voice, it's awareness, it's accountability. Okay. And then you got
Yeah.
choice, voice, accountability, blah, 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 blah. And we
Yeah.
keep going from there. But there's those things there that really, and freedom. Sorry, there you go. There we go. Blank. There we go. Freedom. Those five things really stand fast in my life. You know what I mean? And you can't really understand them until you actually live them. If you get where I'm
Absolutely.
going, so you go through that. Even when I was in Houston, I went through a hurricane, and that wasn't the thing. I went into a hurricane, but I was meant to be there because the funny thing was, I always said to myself, I want to be an Indian at a Native American Indian sweat lodge because that goes that. But that's the thing that gets you in here. They give you the ayahuasca, whatever it is, and they get you
Yes.
to a point, right?
Yeah.
The closest thing I got was when I was in Houston. I was locked in a room for 9 hours because I couldn't go out for certain reasons because it wasn't safe. But you're locked in a
Sure.
steamy room and you've got you, yourself, and your thoughts. You couldn't open the window because it was mozzies. You know, if you're going to get dengue fever or whatever the hell was going on there because there was no
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
running water, whatever. But
Absolutely.
all you had was that. And it's interesting the way the mind works. And when you go into that real deep thought process, did you actually have a moment like that yourself, my friend, when you
I
went through
I
what you did?
I did, and I was literally forced to go into a room, and well, not forced, but when I went to this retreat with Buddhist monks, and I don't follow any religion. I like to look at all different beliefs and religions, etc. But I was put into this room at this retreat, and I was put there for hours, and I just had to sit there, and that was probably one of the hardest things, Jay, I've ever done. And sitting there and having to think, and hearing nothing, and but coming out the other end, it was quite profound. I realized I was I found certain parts of myself I never knew existed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, yes. It's like you get you get to a point where you go, oh, it's a hurricane, and all that. But what it was, and as my best mate said to me, it's going to be a journey of growth
Mm.
It's not going, oh, you're going to go on a rampage you're going to go on a rampage in America, and go on a rampage in Canada and wherever else, right? No, it was spiritual growth. And you put in the
Absolutely.
situations, absolute spiritual growth in America where you're by yourself, you're doing what you're doing, you're going on this world trip to find you. And, you know,
To
obviously
find you, that's right.
connected in Calgary, obviously very much. And obviously Vancouver with all the bears and all those kind of things and seeing the sights. But it
Yeah.
was a very eye-opening experience where you actually really, truly found who you want to be. Oh, I want to get away from Melbourne. Look, I'm not a fan of Melbourne. It's crap. But it's not about that. You know, you take what you do and what you feel to any other place. So, yeah, and you've traveled the world, mate. So you've come to a point of contentment, and we've got a lot of awareness of what's going on. You and me and all the gang have a good awareness, a voice of what the hell's going on. Where are you at right this stage with regards to all that? Having that, how do you? I want to ask you, how do you cope with that awareness? How do you cope with that awareness? I mean, I struggle sometimes because you just think Robin Hood. I see people. I see the people taking, taking from us. And it's right.
They are.
It's Robin Hood effect. Freedom, choice, voice, awareness.
Absolutely.
We're in the mount. Look at it. That's why I use Robin of Sherwood. What do you think? I'd like to take this time to shout out our supporters at Liberty Bullion, the best gold, silver, and platinum traders in Melbourne, even Australia. If you want to give them a call, their knowledge, their customer service is second to none. Back to the show.
I think, how do I deal with it? I think that I've suddenly in the past, only the past few months, realized that I need to be authentic, and I need to be authentic to myself first and foremost.
Yeah.
And without any airs or graces, without trying to people please, and without getting distracted, I have to remain grounded. And one of the best ways I do that and get back to myself from a spiritual level too, is just going out the back here. Like, I've got a big property, and I go barefoot. I go and I sit in a tree, and I ground myself, and I just get back in tune with nature, to return to just being whole, being me, without any distractions on the outside. Because it's very hard to get. It's very easy to get distracted.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's like, we see a lot of this. This is probably going to where our mindsets are right now, and why we're all this gang is connected. Why Hoodlaw has got us all together like the Super Friends, because he went on the recruitment, and all of us have now connected, and we're just making people aware. So how has that changed? How have you changed in that? Have you changed, or do you reckon you found your true self, or do you think this is a self of yours that I needed to go through what I needed to go through? Where would you consider yourself there? You're very level headed, but we've both got massive awareness on what's going on, and how do we control it?
Absolutely. So, if I don't like to rake over the past and dwell on the past. However, I like to look at what's happened to me instead of looking at it the way I used to. That's terrible. That's awful that happened to me. It's so unfair. It's so unjust. I look at it in a different way now. That had those things not happened to me, I would not be here today being the person that I am. And it's helped shape me, and it's helped make me be the person I am today, a bigger, better version of myself. And also, like, being aware, it's like an awakening, where I see and hear things that I never heard or saw before. And
you take the glasses off, mate. There's like these glasses that come off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I'm like looking at things in such a totally different way. And what I'm finding is that I'm finding other people, we're finding ourselves, by whatever way, whether it's through social media or sometimes, we're just drawn together. I mean, I could be walking down the street and just totally unaware that, I'm going to run into somebody I'm going to know for the rest of my life. And like you and I, we've become mates, but we know that we feel like we've been mates forever. And I think, I guess I'm rambling on here.
Not at all.
Um,
Not at all. It makes total sense, mate.
but as you say, the glasses have come off, and so many people, I've met along the way, and I've never ever mentioned this publicly, but I'll mention it now. George Michael, George Michael, Wham. You mentioned freedom. That's sort of like what pricked up my ears was, George. George was always searching, and he wanted to be authentic. He wanted to be himself, but he
Mm.
was never allowed to. And he fought and he rebelled and he tried so hard to just be himself. And, at the helm of all of that was that he was, he allowed other people to criticize him. And it got to him in the end. He had a very miserable existence, but he was searching for, that just wanting to be himself, finding
Mm.
him. And he never did. He never
Yeah,
did.
yeah. It's an interesting thing, Brian. I've had this awareness of people, and I'll use the Nick Kyrgios
Mm,
example. Now,
yeah,
I love Nick Kyrgios. I reckon he is authentic as all buggery.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna throw something at you, regarding when he came up, mate. People love him, and because of his aura and because he's authentic. He's not one of these corporate puppets. Now,
No,
I truly believe when he was up there, he was up there, nearly won Wimbledon, against Rafa, if I'm correct. Um,
yeah,
he went
correct.
to
Yeah.
that, and then suddenly, when they wanted him to become the poster boy, he dropped off. I got a clear message there that they said, you stop being that way, you have to be like this, and he's probably time to go get stuffed.
Yeah,
That's just
that's right.
my opinion. Now, you've been around, these, the entertainment scene in that way. What do you reckon about that? Do you reckon that's a fair call, or what?
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. Very, very good. A very good description. And we unless we, there are times when we do have to tell people to fuck off. Can
Yeah,
I say that?
absolutely, you
We
can, mate. Swear as much as you like. I don't know.
Thank you. I'm just too used to being on TikTok, not being able to say so many things. So,
So I'm going to be very careful when we do this one. It's been pretty good.
it's, so it's very regulated. So
Yes. Oh,
but
yes, it
yeah,
is.
but Nick Kyrgios, he did say, piss off. I'm not going to be that person. He's being true to himself, and that will stand him in good stead. And but so many people over time, whether it be in sports or whether it be in entertainment, whatever, if you reach a level of fame, and they want to keep you in this mold, and keep you in this mindset, and so many of us are breaking out of that mindset now.
We
And
are.
I'll
We are, my
and
friend.
and how we've talked about taking the glasses off and opening one's eyes. If I go back to when I my last trip to America, which was in 2016, I was taken over there to do a film,
Yep.
and that was okay. And started doing this film, and in between filming, I was designated a security guard, right? And I was
Okay.
driven around in a black Escalade with tinted windows. And I'm sort of like saying, well, what is this bullshit? No, you have to be driven around. You need security. You need 24/7 security. And I was staying at the W Hotel in Hollywood. And I was in one room. My security guard was down the other. And I'm like, nobody friggin' know who I am here. No, it's important. So next thing, security guard tells me that we are going to this party, and it was a late night party, and we've heard about these late night parties, and I won't go right into it. But I
Maybe the
can tell
next,
you,
maybe the next part we can do have a little bit of.
yeah, absolutely. But it's sort of like that really opened my eyes. And I thought, no, I'm not going to. I can't be that person. That's not me. That's certainly
How does
not
it make you
me.
feel now, my friend? Because I mean, obviously, with all of us we've come a long way with regards to, I guess, we see what's happening government wise, what's happening with the world, what's happening with people. It must make you proud to be who you are right now, my friend.
You know what? And one of the proudest moments of my career was, coming back from America. I cut my trip short. It seemed unprofessional, but I came back without, finishing the film. I refused. I came home, and the minute I got home, I took a plane and went to Darwin, and I just had to ground myself. And it was one of the best things I ever did, to just get back to being me and not getting caught up in all that bullshit.
Yeah, you sound like it. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, we've all been, look, even in the debate. I mean, it's Australian wrestling and those kind of things. But when the
All
roar of
over.
the crowd, Brian. I mean, I know coming from pro wrestling side of things, the roar of the crowd and the approval. It is like a drug, and
It is.
you see what happens, especially pro wrestling. I mean, wait, there's so many stories that have gone around with what's happening with the push to get your spot, to keep your spot, whatever it may be. But the roar of the crowd doesn't matter whether you're playing in the Benatar show, you doing acting. It does play a big part if you're not taught how to control your boundaries. And looks like from a young age, your mum, God bless her, was behind you and told you how to be humble and how to learn how to control, not even control it, just to understand that you are a normal person, you're doing a job, but it's a great thing to have. I mean,
absolutely. And I think, Jay, a lot of people say, oh, you live in the outer suburbs of Sydney. I mean, I live, in the Shire. I call it a Shire. It's not the Shire, but it's very bushy. And it's, look, the city's like there. It's 35 minutes away if I want it. Very rarely do I go into the city. But this is my sanctum. This is my sanctuary. And I don't get carried away here. I'm very grounded here. And, and sometimes it's a bit of a surprise, after all this time, I might go out and people will know who I am and say hello. And I'm going, why do you know me? It's like it's a different world out there. And I'm coming out of my sanctuary and going into this whole, new world.
It's a nice thing. I mean, it's a nice thing to say. It's a nice thing for someone to come get a photo and all that. I mean, I've had photos of celebrities, obviously, I know I'm not ashamed to say I didn't mind doing it back in the day, but it's even when you're doing a performance at a lower level, they want to have a nice photo with you. So it's good for the ego, and I think that we can definitely teach many people about the benefits of what we do now, but we should have known when we were younger, or had the theory, had the guidance. Well, you had the guidance, which was bloody awesome. I didn't, and it only took me 45 years until I went, and then it took me 5 years to regain this connection to spirit, I guess, in that way, to your own spirit and universe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's quite funny. It's also a lot of it's perception too. Because people, I'll give you a perfect example about perception. I did a reality show, years ago called Come Dine With Me. Have you heard of Come Dine With Me?
Oh yeah, I have. God, I'm sad.
Well,
it's like Gladiators. It's like, mate, I'm a massive fan of Gladiators, right? Because I used to be on the wrestling scene with Vulcan. All right. I used to be on the wrestling scene with Vulcan, right? And God, here now that guy's a funny bugger. Now I used to play a Boy George style character. If you get what he was funny, he'd look at me and my mate, he'd go, "Love you guys, and he'd look at me and go, and then you go, you dress, you dress. You look at me, and you think, hang on, this guy thinks we're weird, and but he goes, I love you guys.
Perfect example, yeah, and like like Boy George is another example, and I think.
Well, we're going to him now. We're going to talk. Actually, I want to bring him up next in part 3.
Part 3, because I know George. So and it's all good. I can tell you some really good stories. But
we'll go on about the Boy George thing, because I'm very proud of what he's done, and he's he has taken that to the next level. And if people
Absolutely.
knew exactly what had happened, which we'll talk
That's exactly right. Absolutely.
if you take a spiritual aspect of what certain things would happen, a guy by the name of Sting, who's a WWE superstar,
yeah,
he was another one
yeah,
who
yeah.
found God, found Christianity. I think it's called.
Absolutely.
Stinger, I apologize if I get it wrong, but he found himself and found a beautiful wife because he was going down the wrong path. It's what you find and whatever gives you life again, I guess, in someone, whether it be an incident or you might find something, something usually clicks, doesn't it, mate?
Absolutely, it does, mate. Absolutely. Oh my God, have I got some stories for you?
Don't worry, we've both got some stories. It's just like really funny that, and I look at it's really funny about, especially the pro wrestling side of things, and this is entertainment in every sense.
Yeah.
Not being as regulated as such, and it's still acting and all that, but you've got the stigma and the pressure of performing. There's stunts, mate. We're getting like a car wreck when we're getting hit.
It's the same narrative.
When we're getting hit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, whether it's wrestling or whether it's entertainment or whatever, it's the same narrative.
Exactly. It is what it
Absolutely.
is. And people have been there, especially at your level and then my lower level, just understand what it really takes to a point and the understanding of how it could absolutely get to your head. I'll be honest with you, I used to, because I wasn't liking myself at all, I used to run through my characters straight up. It used to be, I'm Stefan Cool, the sexiest man in the cosmos. That was my character. I was the number one bad guy in Australia. Everyone knew exactly who me and Julian James were.
Wow, I can so relate to that. And a lot of people I've explained this to, or tried to explain it to, don't have that full understanding of. I've played different characters, not just in entertainment and on television. I've played different characters in real life to get me through certain things. And so if I had to be, fronting up at a court or, in some really serious legal, problem, which I haven't had many of, but I've won every one of them. But I've been a character. I've got different names for these characters, and I play different characters for different situations.
I hear you. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really, really helped me. And even like, I'm renovating here at the house. The house is like ground zero. But, looking at me now, you'll see me tomorrow morning. I'll have my work boots on. I'll have my, my trackie, not my trackies, my King G's on. And I'll be a totally different person because I'm in doing the work and I love it, So I'm Brett, the tradie.
Bob the Builder, one or the other.
That's right, absolutely. Bob the Builder, Brett the tradie, Simon the solicitor, and being able to just do those certain characters has really, really helped me, through different things in life, and I guess it's whatever floats your boat with it, whatever turns your topsoil.
Absolutely, it's just a case
whatever works.
It's a big thing when you have those insecurities in your life, especially when you haven't taught these boundaries that you should be taught as a young kid, or you've been exposed to certain stress. We'll call it certain stressful situations that really affect you, especially stuff. And Russell Brand, one who says that I learned a while ago that your problems could be summed up in two words, one word. So you find something. Mine was value and self as a value, and value and scarcity. Mine were. I only took that. It only came to me, I reckon, it wouldn't be about 2 or 3 months ago that I really said value scarcity, right? And they have the link. So this is where the knowledge that we go through and all this and everything we go through, the 50 years that I've been on this earth, just going through what has happened.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, you're right.
But we'll go into part 3 very soon. Now, in part 3, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to see on Patreon, on my Patreon and also Bryan's. So we've got some special stories regarding Boy George. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk a little bit in depth with regards to the rehab, I guess, in some ways that Bryan's gone through and how he became such a spiritually minded and aware person. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the celebrities that have been named
Yeah,
named.
absolutely. Named. Yeah,
Named,
named.
named.
Yeah.
I think people know where we're going, and we're just going to ask. We're not going to. This is not a case of we're going to put them on and say they did this, they did that. It's not about that. It's
No,
about
it's
the
not.
experience of going, hang on a minute, and having an awareness and understanding where we're going with regards to what's happening in the world, and why that Bryan and I become best mates. Justice Matters, Hood Law, and all our group are
Yeah.
fighting for the freedoms and fighting for the words and fighting, as well as say, the Robin Hood effect of getting people aware of what's actually happening and make sure they look after and make good choices. I think I just want a big shout out on that one. Big shout out to Beat the Reset, Tim Manga. You got Sam from Liberty Bullion, my supporter. Thank you so much, and Bishop from Cryptocurrency. I'm just going to give you a big shout out anyway.
Yay!
There we go. Hey, Diamond Dallas Page. I've done DDP yoga. He always says you're going to be a self promoter. So there you go.
Absolutely.
But it's been wonderful, Bryan. We're going to go into part 3. It will be seen on Patreon. We'll get stuck into that. It's going to be amazing, mate. You've been a wonderful. As I said, it's like being a brother from another mother, my friend. It's been.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
It's just,
likewise.
as I said to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you do find someone in your tribe, don't do what people do, and there is an element of being careful. Yes, I understand that, but when you connect to yourself, you will trust yourself that these people are coming into your life.
And when you know, you know.
Absolutely, mate, and that's what happens. So part 3 coming up very, very soon. We'll see you then. You have to jump on Patreon to see it. 1 or 2, Bryan's or mine. We'll see you soon.